So when it comes to race, race is fiction. So there's only one race, the human race, technically. But what we know is that the concept of racial tribes is rooted in society rather than biology, what physically makes us up. So race is a social construct, as many things are. So concept that's created by people rather than something genetic in nature. So there's more genetic variance between different groups than between group members than between groups. So there's more difference between actual group members than between different groups that are racial categories. So there may be apparent differences between groups, skin color, different things, but that is not enough to say there are actually separate races. So yet on a day-to-day, race matters. And we're really taking a look at that in this course, aren't we? Whether we agree with the concept or not. So we do have to treat it as real. So we can't just go, we're all the same. Everyone's treated the same. Everything's the same. We can't do that. We have to acknowledge there are some racial differences in people's experiences. Okay, so I think that's key. So that's what this quote by Robert Jensen's about. Race is a fiction we must never accept. Race is a fact we must never forget. So because it is a social construct that is out there and exists, we have to address it and we have to look at what it's all about and the impacts and how to work with this. So tribes are even more complicated than race and involve our sense of belonging to a group, including a broader range of socially important identities. And these can include things like gender, class, sexual orientation, age, religion, language, abilities. So our sense of tribe can change according to context and circumstances as well. So we may shift and ebb and flow a bit as we're in different situations. So it's like a microgroup identity, right? So tribes, loosely we could say that group section A of the CYC program first year is a group or a tribe of your people as you grow over time together, and group B would be different, right? There's national identity, like Canadians at the Olympics, that you're cheering for your tribe and your people, right? If you do that. So that's just examples. So there's caution though, if we get too invested in an identity, tribes can limit cooperation and positive outcomes between groups. So an example with unruly sports fans, and with the recent Toronto Raptors win, some unruly fans were being very racist to the super fan, and there were racial slurs experienced. And that wasn't in person as much, I don't believe, as on Twitter. And so that was an example. And there's a video on the slide here. Take off your turban, you will look more Canadian, which I really appreciate. And the leader of our NDP party here in Canada is the person that has been addressed to take off his turban. And please take a look at this and see how this is responded to. And it's so empathetic and respectful. And really, he manages emotions and regulates himself so well and tries to make it a teaching moment for this person and keeps that person's dignity intact. So do take a moment to look at it. There's a little ad first, but just get to it. You'll maybe appreciate it if you haven't seen it. Racial identity can lead to violence and negative feelings. And so this East Asian fishing confrontation that I spoke to is one example of that. Certainly Nova Scotia and the lobster fisher folks as well. When intergroup tension escalates, genocide can be possible as well. And this is demonstrated in Rwanda historically, in Bosnia, in Nazi Germany, and historical attempts in Canada to exterminate First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. So many, and we'll talk about this later, do speak to all of those, of course, are genocides. And more recently in Canada, that word has been used to describe the experience of residential schools, as it was an attempt to exterminate a whole group. So I will take a look at that in more detail another time.